programs that will be cut. Joining us to discuss is George Carrillo, former Democratic candidate for governor of Oregon, and we have Matt Klink, Republican strategist and political analyst. Good afternoon to you. It's good to have you both here. George, I'll start with you. So what programs exactly could the president be talking about here?
Well, I think the president's probably going to continue his path on defunding the education system. We'll probably see a cutoff from infrastructure on green energy projects throughout the country. I think he'll also continue to look at subsidies right now because of the shutdown and holding strong on not continuing those subsidies. I also think that he is going to try to put more money in what he says are, successful programs for Republicans, which I think it'll probably be, he'll want to invest into law enforcement and also into more border security and deportation tactics.
So Matt, what are your thoughts here? President Trump framing some of these programs as, semi-communist or socialist. Your thoughts?
Well, look, yeah, there were a lot of programs that the Democratic infrastructure and deep Washington, D.C. has funded for generations that, frankly, had no particular benefit to the broader American public, but they did fund Democrat-specific priorities. I will find it ironic that funding funding tougher law enforcement, that's not a Republican priority, that's an American priority. But aside from that, Donald Trump, because again, as Barack Obama said, elections have consequences. Donald Trump is going to make it hurt, particularly for Democrats. I will add, though, that Donald Trump is going to get the troops paid today on the 15th. And ironically enough, again, Trump is a master at this. You have the Democrats arguing that Donald Trump couldn't do that. So again, to take an issue, an 80-20 issue, the Republicans take the 80, the Democrats get the 20. They're arguing against paying the troops. So look, the Republicans just want to reopen the government. Have passed a clean continuing resolution, something that the Democrats have done 13 times under Joe Biden. They're not pushing any new policy proposals in this clean CR proposal. And Chuck Schumer, because he fears a run from his left by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is keeping the government closed. And he's not going to be able to hold the American people hostage.
So George, can I get a response to what you heard Matt said? And how do you feel about the framing of President Trump for these programs as semi-communist or socialist?
So I think it's humorous because one is the fact that Republicans have control of the White House and Congress, both the House and the Senate. We are the minority, and we're standing strong right now in order to be able to protect healthcare for millions of people. And Republicans, their backup is against the wall right now with this government shutdown. They're going to have to own it. There's too many Americans that are going to see an increase in their healthcare premiums, and they're not going to be insurable. And so right now, Republicans continue to lie about the reasons why this government shutdown is happening. If they really want to open up the government, then they need to learn to have some sort of bipartisan conversation and not just have meetings within their own caucus and passing bills without any sort of Democratic support. So right now, it's really on the Republicans. They're going to own it, and they're going to feel it in the midterms.
So Matt, can I get a response from you? So George mentioned bipartisan negotiations, right? How do you respond to a talking point from the Democratic side that this continuing resolution has no Democratic input?
Well, actually, first of all, it does have Democratic votes. It got Democratic votes in the United States Senate. And as Democratic talking point in Georgia, because of the Senate rules that require 60 votes, we need 8 Senate Democrats to vote affirmatively. We have 4 right now. So eventually, as the pressure builds on the Schumer shutdown, ultimately, the Democrats are going to come back to the table with their tail between their legs, and they'll reopen the government. All the Republicans are saying is, let's open the government, and then we can have as many conferences on health care. I really am looking forward to one, illegal immigrants in the health care bill, and 2 is that during COVID, with the bipartisanship that George just mentioned, the Democrats passed temporary increases to Obamacare. They now want to extend those temporary increases and make them permanent. Only in Washington, temporary spending increase a permanent spending increase. And the Republicans are just saying, we can even have that conversation. But let's open.
All right, Matt, you were actually breaking up a little bit just now, so I'll go to George here.
Okay.
We heard bits and pieces of what you said, but some of it we were lost due to the connection. So George, do you think the cuts are necessary right now due to the shutdown?
So I think what needs to happen is Republicans need to show some good faith here. Every time we try to negotiate when we don't have any control, they go back on their word. They push bills that are not good for the American people. And right now with Democrats, they're saying no. They're drawing a line in the sand, and they're saying we're not going to see millions of Americans lose their healthcare coverage. And right now it is on the House and the Senate to reconvene, find a way to be able to negotiate and figure out right now, how can we provide a temporary solution before we can have the longer conversation of these subsidies, of how we can create a policy that is not going to devastate Americans throughout this country. And understand that it is a domino effect. When you affect people's accessibility to healthcare, that hurts the US economy. It hurts consumer spending. So we really need to be able to take a look at this and say, okay, let's open up the government, let's find some common ground, let's get a bill that is passable. But right now, with the way Republicans are behaving, they're not willing to have conversations. They're putting lawmakers on recess while there's still workers right now, like TSA and air traffic controllers. They're expected to show up and they're not getting paid, but yet our lawmakers are, and yet they're not in session.
So George, House Minority Leader Jeffries says he agrees with making sure that uniform active duty troops are paid, but House Speaker Mike Johnson accused Democrats of voting 8 times to block their paychecks. He was referring to their votes on the stopgap bill, which would fund the government to a pre-shutdown level. Your response to that?
So I think, again, it's a bunch of smoking mirrors. They're not telling the whole story. The bill is not all about just paying the troops. I don't believe that Democrats don't want to pay the troops, but we also want to ensure that subsidies are being paid for. There's a reason why we are trying to prevent this bill from passing it in the way that it's current in its current state. And so it's easy for Republicans to change the narrative. Just like when they first came out saying Democrats were all about providing these subsidies for undocumented immigrants, which is completely not true. Undocumented immigrants do not qualify for subsidies, nor do they qualify for Medicaid. And so they're consistently gaslighting the American people on what Democrats are actually trying to do. And Democrats right now are actually working for American families, for middle and low income members throughout the United States that can't afford quality health care. And again, is that what the Republican Party wants to do? They want to eliminate these subsidies to take away accessibility for people's health? Is that what we've come to?
So, George, Matt is actually fixing his connection. In the meantime, do you think that this is the same continuing resolution that Democrats have voted in the past?
Well, Democrats want to be able to see that. So let's go back to like social programs like SNAP and WIC benefits, subsidies for Medicare. These are helping people that don't necessarily have the means, that provides sort of a bridge to be able to help people become more self-sufficient, be able to receive the quality of care that they need. No child, no person should go hungry at night. No one should not receive services, medical services, simply because we draw this political line. That's not what America is about, and that's what we're doing right now. We're politicizing what's in the best interest of the American people right now, and all we're doing is finger pointing. And so right now, remember, Democrats do not have control of the House and the Senate. They're using the power that they have in order to provide a negotiation tactic, and Republicans are not showing up to have those conversations.
Okay, George, I'll ask you one more thing and then I'll go to Matt. I think he's back now. He raised a point earlier and I would like your response. Why not open the government and then we can talk about healthcare or debate about anything once federal employees are being paid?
Because then it's going to be too late. Then what's going to happen? There's going to be millions of Americans that are going to see their premiums double or triple, not getting this that they need. We're going to see loss of life because of that, because of those choices. And Republicans have proven that they don't want to work with Democrats. They want to pass what it is that they want to pass, and they don't necessarily compromise with Democrats. So why would we believe that they are willing to do the right thing after we open up the government?
Okay, so Matt, I think you heard what George said, right? Can you give us a response?
Yeah. Well, look, the subsidies, first of all, the subsidies that they pass tend to go toward middle and upper income voters. Again, this is just a pure government handouts that the Democrats desperately want to expand Obamacare to more and more Americans. The way to do this, if they want to do this, is let's have a straight up or down vote. Don't hold the American people hostage by shutting down the government, and certainly don't do money to people who are in this country illegally and no legitimate claim to receiving taxpayer benefits. Period. End of subject. The Schumer shutdown is holding the American people hostage, and the American public will take it out on the Democrats in 2026.
Okay, Matt, I'll just give you one more question here. So George was saying that if we open the government, then it would be too late because I'm paraphrasing here. It seems like Republicans don't want to work with Democrats.
Well, that's a good Democratic talking point, and it's ironic given that the massive spending that occurred when Joe Biden was in office was a strict party line vote. Now, look, we have bipartisan support here. There are 4 Democratic senators who voted for a clean continuing resolution. And George just doesn't want to acknowledge. He would rather let the most radical progressive left in the Democratic Party hold this country hostage. And look, the Republicans aren't going to believe it. The voting public is not going to believe it. And it's going to help the Republicans in 2026 because they will see how extreme the Democrats are. They would rather fund health care for people who are here illegally, not pay our armed forces, cut crime, funding, all because they want to fund their radical groups like Antifa. This is straight out of the Democratic progressive playbook, and the American public sees through it.
Okay, we just have about maybe 30 seconds here. George, if you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, and then we can leave the conversation there.
Sure. It's not about being radical. It's not about a left-leaning agenda. It's about American taxpayers. It's about subsidies for Medicare. And the lies, the continuation of undocumented immigrants, again, they don't qualify. This is not about undocumented immigrants. This is about low to middle income families. These subsidies will help them to be able to have accessibility. And so all of this rhetoric, this is about the health and safety of the American people. And that's what it comes down to.
All right, I think we can leave the conversation there. I'm sure more can be said, but thank you both for coming on today.
Thanks a million.
It's now a good time to invest in gold. With gold prices at a record high, NTD showed